we don't have a preceding digit for our call sign, so this confuses the air traffic controllers as well. The call sign is Phoenix, and then the aircraft in them are the numbers. So this is a thing that's probably unique to the Hungarian Air Force. It's just Phoenix 1, 2 and 3. So and we only use those call signs when we are transmitting outside, generally outside the flight. So if we're talking to a control agency, it's going to be Phoenix 1 and flight, or Phoenix 3 and flight, if we're doing things like that. Inside the flight, I'm more than happy if you use the full call sign, and you'll hear me doing it as well, but I'm also more than happy if you just give me 1, 2 or 3 as an identifier. I don't expect you to read back, and in Army Aviation as well, when you're with the Apache, I don't expect you to read back the full call sign every time like you've been taught in the Navy. It's all very much a bit more quick and dirty here. We're going to be obviously taking off from, this is Fob Hatter, so we're going to be taking off from Fob Hatter, and we're basically going to be flying behind us over to about 100 weight, where we're doing a little bit of formation flying, and then we're going to set up some attacks on an enemy position down the bottom of the valley, and then we'll come back and do a recovery back into Fob Hatter. So that's the flight profile. We won't be flying more than about 20 miles, so it's a very short mission, but hopefully we'll cram a lot in. When we depart the aircraft, we want the aircraft lit up, so at the moment I've got everything on apart from my landing taxi light, because I'm going to turn that on when I'm ready to move the aircraft essentially. So we've got blade tip lights running, formation light, the navigation lights running, and the strobe light running at the moment, just to give people an idea of where we are, and crucially tight environments where the edges of the blades are as well, so we can all see what's going on. We'll go through night operations another time, because we turn everything, literally everything off and cloak the aircraft, but that can be good fun. We've got a little bit of an interesting exit from the fob, simply because the wind's from behind us. That's going to mean that we've got less lift to play with due to the characteristics of the wind blowing from behind us. And also the aircraft's going to want to weather vane as well into the wind, which can make anti-torque responsiveness a little bit problematic. I believe this is one of the first aircraft in DCS to have loss of tailrotor authority modelled into it. You will find as you go around the corner that your amount of authority changes. We're not into any dangerous situation at the moment with the level of wind or the speeds we're going to be travelling at, but something to be aware of. You might want to just look up how LTE works, so you can avoid putting the aircraft in situations, generally at low speeds, when you're going to suffer from LTE. Your aircraft should be capable of hovering. These aircraft swarm with about 85% fuel and a normal combat load, so you should be capable of IG hover. And what we'll do is we'll translate forwards, turn left, and head out over the blank pads to the left-hand side. One thing you will need to look out for immediately after departure, there's some low wires that are about 400 or 500 metres away from the perimeter. And we're going to transit those at the stanchion. You'll hear me call those out as we depart. For departure, again we'll try and drag things into the Apache way of doing things as well. There's 2 calls that you'll hear from aircraft departing a fob or departing any base really, that is beacon and torch. So when the first aircraft lifts off the deck, you'll hear me call beacon. So it'll be Phoenix 1 beacon, and that will mean that I've left the ground and we're departing. Every 5 seconds, the next aircraft, so 5 seconds after the beacon call, the next aircraft will lift off the ground and start to move, and then 5 seconds after that, the next aircraft will lift off the ground, which in this case is Dash 3, that's our final aircraft. And as the Dash 3 aircraft lifts off the ground, it will call 3 torch, and that lets me know that all of my aircraft are off the ground. Conduct your departure as you see me do. You see me go to the centre of this area in front of us, turn left again and head out. Get into effective translational lift, start avoiding those wires, get yourself up. We'll aim for probably around 250 to 300 metres of altitude initially, and 200 kPa formation on the right hand side of the aircraft. The looser, we don't do tight formations, A for survivability and B for pilot workload. In this aircraft we rely on situational awareness, and the more you're watching me trying to keep formation, the less time you're watching for anything shooting at us. So we fly in a loose formation, probably run 5 or 6 aircraft widths at least between each aircraft, and we'll modify that as we fly around and get used to flying in formation. We always form on the right hand side. The idea of the formation is that we don't overfly the same spot, because that invites people to shoot at us, and you cover the aircraft in front of you, or you cover the aircraft around you. So your head should always be outside the cockpit, really looking for threats, looking for landmarks, looking for terrain, and looking for other obstacles like wires, wires, cables, towers, rising terrain, anything like that that you see that's going to cause a hazard to the aircraft. And then if you do see something like that, we're going to call it out, call it early, and then we'll call scene as well, or visual, just to let people know that you've actually got eyes on that object. So you'll hear me call, as I cross the fence here, 1 wires, 12 o'clock, 300 metres across the stanchion. And that's giving you an idea of where the object is, how far away it is, and then what I want you to do about it. We don't fly under wires, bridges or anything like that unless we have no other choice, because it's incredibly dangerous, and this is all about managing risk. If we haven't got any choice, then we will fly under things, especially wires, but we do it at extremely low speeds, so you'll be looking 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, really getting underneath things like that, just so we're not banging into stuff. The name of the game is just get your head outside the cockpit and look round as to what's going on. Once we've formed up, you're just going to follow me round, and I'll explain a little bit more about how and why we're doing things, and then we will talk about how we set up attack patterns. We'll do a bit of shooting. We'll get you attacking things. It is a live fire target, so you will get shot at. Especially if you get too close to them, they're very aggressive. But we'll talk about ways of mitigating that threat. Once we've fired a few rounds, got the attack patterns down, we'll then look at heading back to Fob Hatter. We'll do a left-hand pattern into Fob Hatter, and we'll explain about landing the aircraft and about set stacks and things like that, and you'll get an idea of what's going on. Just make sure you've worn your weapons. I would recommend you have, but obviously it's down to you, I would recommend you have Petrovich set to free fire. So we will launch once you've got good launch parameters, and you don't have to sort of figure out your ranges and things for yourself at the moment. And at that note, do you have any questions for us, Takeoff?
Clear as mud.
Awesome, that's what I'm aiming for. Okay, so before we go most places, there's various ways we can do takeoffs. From this location we're going to be relatively lightly loaded because we can't do a running takeoff. You'll be able to do an IG hover power check. So what we'll do from here is we'll bring the aircraft into the IG hover over the pads, and then I will call beacon. You'll see me move off, and then every 5 seconds another aircraft will follow out, and then we'll rejoin. And I'll aim to be at 200 kph, 300 metres, and you guys catch up with me in formal. So Phoenix flight, go for hover power check.
2.
That's good power check. Beacon. Right, hello, Dash 2.
Greetings.
I'm going to stick across the left-hand side of this valley because the target's down on the right-hand side. We don't want to get too close to that. The thing we try and do, if we can, is we like to keep the aircraft in trim, as you'll hear referred to with the Apache. Basically means we'll keep a centered slip ball. If we tell us to get the aircraft in trim, that means we're going to center that ball up on the the attitude indicator. Makes everything nice and smooth, gives you more power to play with because you're not dragging your carcass through the air, flying the aircraft sideways, and it could be using all that nice lovely power to drive itself forwards. Let's come in level 300 meters. Standard profile that will fly. We usually fly a bit faster than this. We usually pick it up to 250 kph, and we'll usually rock round in that extended sort of what you consider a cruise formation. We do use another formation, and that's trail. Very much the same thing, but obviously we run a strung out trail, and we'll usually run into a trail when we're about to attack, because it gives us the opportunity to set up a pattern and set up a wheel attack, which is our preferred method of engaging the enemy, and I'll show you that in a second. Changing performance as we go through the wind, and now we're flying with the wind, so you'll see another change in power requirements, changing trim requirements, etc. for getting the aircraft nice and levelled up for the attitude that we want it. One little trick I do, which you might find useful, you might not, is to mark on your horizontal situation indicator on your compass what direction the wind is coming from. So I've marked down using my heading needle the direction of the wind, where it's coming from, so I can sort of make an informed decision about where I'm going to place the aircraft and how the aircraft's going to perform in any way, any point of the flight. As you can see, we keep it nice and loose. At this point in the flight, we'll probably be looking to turn off a load of the lights, so the only thing I should have running at the moment is the tail strobe. That will usually go off for an attack, so we completely cloak the aircraft, but for this we're not going to bother too much with that. I'd rather people be able to see where they are. Getting a little bit of speed with the winds, a bit of trim, take that off. So an attack, I'll show you where the target is, and then we'll show you what the attack pattern looks like. It's very much like, someone described it very well the other day, like a fixed wing field bombing practice pattern. It's a left-hand orbit into the target, in which we engage on the inbound leg. The aircraft that's attacking should look towards the target and obviously use Petrovich or sensors, etc. to engage enemy threats. So we engage by the thing that's going to kill us downwards. So short-range SAMs, manpads, AAA, IFBs, tanks, and then anything else really. And we're trying to reduce the level of threat so we can get closer and closer to the target and utilise different more weapon systems, give ourselves a bit more option in fighting things. Once we enter the target area, we're going to form that left-hand wheel, and what we're aiming to do is have one aircraft attacking, one aircraft approaching, and one aircraft coming off the target at any one time. Obviously, the more aircraft you have, both the easier and harder it gets because you've got to coordinate. All those aircraft. The idea is you need to find the aircraft that's in front of you and work out where you need to be based on what that aircraft's doing. So if that aircraft's attacking, you should be on your approach turn really, and then if the aircraft in front of you is off the target, you should be attacking, etc., etc. And the idea is that the aircraft that are not attacking are looking out for the aircraft that is attacking and will call out any threats to that aircraft.
Question.
Yeah, we're going to come left. Fire away, mate.
So when doing this wheel attack, are we preferentially using speed or geometry to kind of be where we're supposed to be, or basically do whatever the pilot said?
Usually going to be using geometry. We're going to attack usually at 250 kph. Speed is life for us when we attack. So generally it's going to be either chopping down or throwing out your pattern just so you can stay in position.
Copy.
Good question. A big thing we need to I'll drill into right now is countermeasures. Whenever you are about to attack or you initiate an attack, especially just before you start firing weapons, you need to be launching countermeasures. We've been saved a lot of times by prophylactic countermeasures use, so be throwing those countermeasures out as you engage and then escape the target, and then make sure you're moving and not keeping the aircraft steady when you're escaping the target, so that things like tank cannons, etc. Don't get a bead on you, because they will shoot you down. They have shot us down in the past. So what we'll do now is we'll accelerate up to 250 kph, and then we'll start showing you towards the target area. Flight 1 o'clock low, 1 mile towers, pass left. So when we're attacking, you're armed today with 4 AT-9s, 40 HE heat frag rockets, and should be a full load of gun. So the 30mm cannon should have 250 rounds aboard the aircraft. We're going to attack initially usually with the AT-9, which is probably our preferential weapon system for the battlefields that we're usually on, simply because it gives us reach. We like to stay away from anything that's going to shoot at us. When it comes down to using rockets and guns, yes, we can use them. They are useful in certain situations, but we're going to use reach first of all. And a lot of the things you'll find if you fly with us on missions is that we do risk assess what we're doing. So if we get to a point where we're out of AT-9s and the target still presents a threat to us, that we're just, it's going to get dangerous, we're going to get shot down. Unless it's a mission critical objective, we will, abort at that point an RTB, just because we don't want to lose the aircraft, lose the capabilities. The important thing there is planning really, and we do plan to try and get our weapons away against critical targets first, or only against the critical targets. We've hit an EWR site a few missions ago in Syria. We flew to the target, fired one missile, hit the EWR site, flew off, because we didn't want to engage the manpads and the AAA defences that are around the target, so we do mission planning with that in mind.
Do you typically work with other flights if they can take aware of some of the threats, so let's say somebody dropping GPU 10 on or 12 on a SAM?
Yeah, if we can coordinate, that's definitely a good thing for us. We work a lot with the Harriers, who will attack sort of the more major threat sites for us. Obviously anything with a radar is really a threat to us because our radar warning receiver equipment is terrible, for want of a better word. So it's it's a case of working with other assets to try and figure that out. Got 2, but I can't see 3. Where are you, 3? Yeah, copy that. So our target that we're looking at is 2 coming to 3 o'clock now. If you look, there's a road running down away from us, 2 o'clock position, and then you'll see a building, settlement with white buildings, and then beyond that you'll see some brown buildings surrounded by vehicles. The brown buildings surrounded by vehicles are the target. Let me know if you've not seen that.
2 tally buildings, so no tally on vehicles, probably too far away.
Roger that. That's our target. You'll see Petrovich will start picking things up around those when we go to attack. We're going to use an anchor point, which is going to be these mountains below us for the attack. And then what we'll do is we'll set up the wheel basically anchored on the anchor point and then towards the target. So I'm going to come into a left-hand turn now, and if you follow me into it and drop into a trail formation, I'll show you what the attack looks like. We won't actually attack on this run. We'll come off drive, but I'll show you what it's going to involve. You'll hear radio calls for a start. So as we are on what we call the downwind leg, so away from the target, you'll hear someone call a beam, and we'll go through that in a second. But once you are back at the anchor point and turning in, as I'm doing now, you'll hear Phoenix 1 approaching. Approaching lets us know that you're on this final left-hand turn into your target, and we always, if we can, attack in a left-hand orbit, so we can see better out the left-hand side of the aircraft.
Question of how much distance should we have in trail?
So you're aiming to be at the position. Right now it doesn't matter, we'll sort it out in a second, but you're aiming to be at the position before the aircraft in front of you. So if I'm now about to go in, you should be just coming up to approaching. And then dash 3 should just be coming off the target. So as we come round towards the target, this is going to be the attack direction. You're going to call in with the direction so that we know where you're attacking from. Again, it's SA. SA is very important in this aircraft because we don't have any. So I'm going to call Phoenix 1 in 190. And at that point, all the other radio calls really should stop, because what's happening is everybody else is looking at the target and looking at Phoenix 1 to make sure nothing's shooting at him, because all their concentration is down towards the target. So your job as Wingman is to then call out anything that's trying to kill the attacking aircraft. Phoenix 1, target APC, rifle, and the weapon will go off the rail. Guide, slap into the target, and then you'll hear Phoenix 1 off left. You aggressively come off the target. Generally, more aggressively than that, you will aggressively come off the target, using countermeasures, using the terrain, using manoeuvrability to stay out of the way of any missiles and guns that may be tracking you, because you are going to get shot at a lot. And at this point you're aiming to turn until you're off the target nice and safe, and as you're turning out you're looking for the next aircraft in line. Okay, so right now, coming off that target, I should be able to see an aircraft in front of me on my left-hand side turning into the approach turn for the target. And that's the kind of thing you're trying to do. Just that wheel go left all the way round, and eventually you'll sort of go, I know, and it'll just start happening naturally for you. attack run, and then I'll hear hopefully Phoenix 3 in such and such, such and such. At that point I'll be turning in Phoenix 1 approaching. And at this point I'm looking out left behind the aircraft, looking for threats, looking for anything that's shooting at the other aircraft. No matter where I am, if anyone's on the target or about to shoot at the target, I'm looking at them and looking at the target to make sure that anything, if anything shoots at them, tracers, SAMs, and that we call a target. What to do if you do see something shoot? You will just call AAA brake or SAM brake, and the aircraft, no matter what it's doing, immediately aborts the attack, brakes off, countermeasures, aggressive manoeuvring away from the target, so that it's able to defeat whatever weapon system has been fired at it. So if you want to, just looking around to see where you guys are, I see you behind there. So that's probably a good position for the second aircraft. The third aircraft, if you want to continue your left turn once you get into the attack lane, and basically go round again almost, we'll be able to start the attack run. And what I want to happen is we're going to attack this village down here. You'll see there's, when you start using Petrovich, you'll see there's armed personnel carriers, etc. down there for you to shoot at. So I'm going to come off left and try and slot in behind you guys. Phoenix 1 off.
What was the phrase for the in part?
Just in and you're heading.
Right, Phoenix 2 in, right, 5, correction 1 enter 0.
Okay, 3, 1's visual with you, just continue left turn, go round, and then you can drop in behind Phoenix, aggressive left turn, you can drop in behind Phoenix 2. Countermeasures, good man, very nice. 2 approaching, 1 in, 190, target APC engaged. Right. countermeasures on all the way through your turn, mate. As you turn, you're exposing your hot exhaust to the enemy, so that's the most important point for countermeasures to be out. Target APC.
Approaching.
Rifle.
One off left.
Okay, should probably talk to you now about what to do if an aircraft does get shot at. So, as 3 and 1 now off the target, 2 is attacking, or about to attack, our job's to look for stuff that might shoot at 2. If we see something that shoots, our job becomes to kill that target, to the exclusion of everything else. If anything that shoots at us and lives can come back another day, better trained, better aware, that shoots us again. We want to eliminate that threat to get to the aircraft, okay? Both immediately and in the future. So, if an aircraft starts taking ground fire, the best positioned aircraft, which at this point is going to be 3 in the turn, is going to look and see and identify where that ground fire is coming from, and then is going to do his best to identify and kill that target. If that means chopping across the circle in front of somebody to do it, the aircraft that's got eyes on that threat does that, and the people behind can work out what they need to do to get out of the way so that the aircraft with sight can kill the threat. What we're going to do now is we're going to introduce another thing too, which is a change of attack direction. So, one's approaching. Countermeasures, that's it. 1. Attack direction change, stop lock right. So I'm now turning right out of the pattern because I can't shoot at what I want to shoot at from this position. We're going to try a new attack direction. So the guy behind me follows me through and the guy behind him follows him through. Okay, so you're all sort of looking at each other, working together, and listening for the next call, because that's going to tell you where I'm attacking from. One's tipping in along the mountains in 150. Target APC. Rifle. This is now the new attack head. take you closer. So this is where 2 and 3 need to be in a position to look. By the fact I've called rockets, you know I'm going to use something that requires me to get a little bit closer to the target. So it's worth just taking that extra time to look and see, you know, about defending the lead aircraft once it gets shot at, because I will get shot at. Don't stay predictable. I'm here. Yeah, that's correct. Continue what you're doing. I'm just going to get this aircraft off the deck quick. They'll come join you. R2N160. getting close. Don't be afraid to modify your pattern slightly as well if you know another aircraft needs support. If you're the only other aircraft there, definitely something to consider. Approaching, we might be a little bit too close. Good call, and string the approach back out. String the back out if you need to. You do, yeah. I'm now on 160, but I'm gonna pass back. If you open your knee board to the first page, it will tell you how many countermeasures you've got left on board.
Ah, that's handy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So what we'll do is if, I think you guys have got the point with this now, what we'll do is we'll reform over the mountains. So if you two want to rejoin and then head over to where we originally anchored, so those low mountains or low hills, and I'll come find you and form up with you. In fact, I've got your visual now, so.
Copy, 3, you're in front, you want to take the lead?
Because we're now away from combat, we're going to start lighting the aircraft back up again. So we're going to start looking at putting things like the navigation lights back on, formation lights, things like that. 3, when you turn in, try not to overfly the enemy position. It's something none of you guys did tonight, which is good to see, is actually overfly the target. That's one of the big no-nos really for helicopter aviation, is don't overfly the enemy.
Yeah, I need to rebind the drawbridge controls because of the conflict with the radio just now.
Yeah, roger, no worries. One thing we've not needed to do is the fact that but we will tell you about, is the signal flares. So on the left-hand panel, below the radio power switches, there's a bank of signal flares. We use those for locating aircraft, especially at night. So if someone asks you to pop a flare, don't use your main thermal defeat flares. Use one of the signal flares. Just call, one's popping red flare, one's popping green flare, etc., and we'll find you.
Noted.
Yep, the red flare gone out from someone. Yep, they are very good, especially at night. Night's where we really struggle. Not struggle, it's just a challenge, due to the fact that we can either have access to the instruments or access to seeing outside the cockpit, but not both. And also various other bits and bobs that we need to do. The aircraft is extremely dark, especially at low level at night. It's very, very challenging, and those signal flares can be very handy for rejoining once after an attack such as this.
Are we in a row to go into combat at night? I don't think that MI-24 is capable or certified.
not night capable or certified, we absolutely do it.
Gotcha.
We can do it. We Heath Robinson some stuff in, so we're not supposed to do it. It's not particularly safe, but we adapt our procedures to it. And also we will do things like set up an emission editor, we'll set up illumination barrages, as if artillery's firing flares over the target so we can see what's going on.
Yeah, makes sense. I was watching one of the Apaches with you guys on a mission and I saw there were like flares all around the target area. Quite handy.
Yeah, Petrovich can't see at night. That's our main limitation, really. So we provide him with illumination and then he can see. We did try it with the helicopter launched rocket pods. We can do it, but the pods last just long enough for you to lock up, get a missile away, and it would get most of the way to the target before the flare drops out and you end up losing the missile.
Copy. Yeah, well, waiting forward for Apache.
Oh yeah. Okay, 3, if you want to slow down to about 200 kph, raise your altitude to about 300 meters, which you're about there at the moment, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass on the left hand side of you and I'll join up. Right, and then I'll take the lead. If you're bombing round it, one thing to remember is if you're bombing round at about 250, if we're heavy, we can't get past that cruise speed very easily. So it's better to get to 200 or so and then let the guys rejoin on you. Start coming left, mate. Start left hand turn. A good idea as well in formations to be at the same level as or lower than the aircraft in front of you. Simply because view can get very limited, very restricted in the cockpit when you're above the guy in front of you, especially short ranges, you can quickly become unsighted, so it's best to keep people on a level play if you can. Okay, level us up, heading about north, mate, come 360 and then level us up, and I'll pass you on the right hand side. How's the lead? Pass him right. Flight rejoin right. Crossing left turn towards base. We'll slow it down to about 250. Okay, good work. So, landings are, again, a team effort. We tend to approach like you would an airfield. So we have a downwind leg, base, etc. We try and stay away from airfield traffic patterns, especially when there's fast jets around. If it's just us, we'll set up some SOPs for fobs and VARPs and things like that, and we'll do like a nice traffic pattern. But for airfields, we try and go direct to a point, and we'll talk about going direct probably later on, because it's probably might not be what you think it is unless you've got experience with helicopters and traffic patterns and aviation traffic patterns anyway.
Nope, none.
Okay, so if we got, usually when we're cleared for a runway, we'll ask for a direct approach. If I was coming in to say Minad now, I would ask for a direct approach to runway 09, direct transition to the helipads, or direct transition to taxiway Yankee for the helipads. What that's going to do is I'm going to head basically for the threshold of runway 9 as if I'm going to land. But I'm not going to land. I'm going to get to hover or air taxi speed, and then I'm just going to pass straight over the threshold and then bring myself down either to over the top of the taxiways, if that's clear and that's safe to do so, or I'm going to look to transition to a whatever taxi I've been given. If it's direct, we can just go direct to the parking point. If we've been asked to taxi to a certain position, then we'll usually use a ground taxi to do it, because hover taxi can be a little bit fraught. But for this, what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the fob, and we're going to treat it like an airport. So we're on the downwind leg at the moment because we know the wind's coming from about 120, and then we're going to turn around into the landing as you would in a normal airfield. We're going to take a nice wide turn upwind now, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how we do the actual landing itself. You'll hear, if we're coming into a fob, something called set and stack. But this is an Apache thing we're trying to drill in now. So if someone calls set, you'll hear, like the leader, for this landing, I will call set right, stack left. That means I'm going to set down on the right hand side of whatever landing field we're going for, and I want the rest of the flight to stack on my left hand side. So we're going to end up on the pads that we originally took off from. So we hear Phoenix flight, set right, stack left, and then you shout 2, 3, etc. as you know, to say you've understood what's going on. That's just an easy way, instead of going, I want to land on the right, and then I want dash 2 to land next to me, and then dash 3 to land next to that, and then it's just easy to do it that way, set and stack. With helicopters, dash 1, 12 o'clock past to 1, towers below 400 metres, cross left. With a pattern like this, what we're going to do is almost like an overhead brake. We're going to fly down the left hand side of the landing point, and I'm going to call a brake, and then every 5 seconds an aircraft's going to peel left into the landing. Okay, so we should peel off like a normal fixed wing aircraft, and we'll start slowing down, and we'll start descending into the target or into the landing point. To get to there initially, you want to be in the sort of right-hand cruise formation. What I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start slowing us down. Okay, I'm going to bring us down to about 200 kilometers per hour, and after we've crossed these mountains to the left, I'm going to start descending us down to a much lower altitude. In helicopters, or especially in the stuff we're going to be flying, lose altitude and speed early. Don't try and do everything last minute like you see in movies and things like that, because you'll die. You'll either VRS the aircraft into the ground, or you'll overshoot, or you'll hit someone else. Do everything early. So slow down early, get down low early, because it's much easier to do one rather than doing both. You're trying to minimise the amount of stuff you've got to do at any one time. Okay. So right now we're going to slow the aircraft down to 200 kph, which is a nice speed to approach from. I'm going to use this road that's coming up on our 11 o'clock now as a guideline for where I'm going to, almost like passing the carrier. That's going to be my sort of initial point, okay? And I'm going to continue to slow, and I'm going to continue to drop the aircraft down to a lower altitude. When I turn, I'm going to turn, not aggressively, but 20-30 degree angle back round towards the landing point. I'm going to look for my landing point, and I'm going to notice that as the aircraft turns into the wind, I'm going to dump a lot of speed very quickly. Don't fight that, just let it happen. The slower you're going, the easier this is going to be. The idea is to just keep slowing and lowering the aircraft down until we cross the threshold or cross the fence line at a walking pace, at which point we can look to gently, slowly, carefully touch the aircraft down back on its landing pad. So we're now low enough, in my opinion, slow enough, in my opinion, that I'm going to say Phoenix 1 in the brake. And I'm going to lose speed immediately, because I'm turning into the wind. My nose is high, I'm going to add a little bit of power. Gears in transit, and I'm now picking out my landing point. Now 150 kph. Coming out the turn at 150 kph, 100 metres. I've identified my landing point, I'm stripping speed back now off the aircraft still. Use your trim. This will feel very slow to you. Just remember that as you start slowing down, you have to feed more power in, the nose is going to want to come left as well. So I'm now about 60 kph. Constantly trimming.
Two going around.
Copy.
I was trying to mimic what you were doing, but I was a little bit too close.
Yep. Done exactly the right thing. Always go round if you're not going to make it. Don't try and follow the aircraft in front of you. Form your own approach, just bear in mind where the other aircraft is. So yeah, good decision making. And you want to be slow, like I am now, what, we have 10 kph, making my way towards the landing pad. Remember the front landing gear is underneath your bum, underneath your arse, so that's where you want to look to put the front landing gear down, towards the edge of the pad. Use the Apache in front of you to find out where the centre of the pad is. Slowly, gently bring the aircraft onto the pad. There is no rush in helicopter flying. Smooth, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
I have a question. When you were braking, we were supposed to follow with like 5-second intervals, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, about 5 seconds, 4 or 5 second intervals, yeah.
Copy.
Once down, brakes on. Yeah, it just gives you a little bit of time, a little bit of distance from the aircraft in front so you can relax. And yeah, the idea is that we're really just trying to slow them down. The Hind will pick up speed on the drop of a dime, so it's trying to get the thing slow is the biggest challenge in DCS in my opinion.
Yeah, getting Hind slow and tall at the same time is next to impossible.
Yeah, it's much easier to do one than the other. We'll talk about the Rorschach technique as well in a minute, because that might be quite useful. I don't know if you guys have used that before. Roger. No, we're on the pad. The whole finessing an aircraft onto the pad will come. It's not a requirement. Nicely done, guys, well done.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, we'll drop into, what's it called, Discord. We'll have